Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of What the Hell is Happening? Oh, no, that's not the name of the show. It's called Defiance Daily. But we do talk about what the hell is happening, and not only that, what you can do about it. Today, I have a dear friend joining me. I'm very excited about it. The wonderful, the incredible Ellie Leonard is with us today. Hey,
Hello,
Ellie.
hello. How's it going?
What's happening, friend?
Oh man, it is as hot and muggy and humid as possible outside. I'm going outside for 5 minutes at a time only, and so I'm very happy to be inside talking to you. How's it going?
Yeah. The weather here in Oregon's all right, man. Oregon summers are pretty good. If you
Yeah.
need an escape from the heat somewhere, Oregon's kind of the place to be. Don't recommend it in
Yeah.
January, but feel free.
No,
Come
I'm
on
from
out. I got an extra bed. I'm
yeah.
always open to pro democracy leaders, Ellie.
I'm from
So you can
Washington
be part of
State, so it's the same place. It's all the same place.
that. Oh, I lost.
All right. I think I'm back.
You're back.
I continue to lose my phone. Hold on. Let me try one more time. All right. We're back. When Miles is away, it all falls apart quickly. No. Well, look, we got a lot to get into today. We've got national intelligence. We've got the Epstein files, which you know a thing or two about. We're talking about data centers. So let's get into the first story. Let's start tonight with a reminder about what happens when you spend years weaponizing the government. Eventually, people stop wanting to hand you more power. And that brings us to one of the more remarkable stories out of Washington today. This afternoon, the House failed to extend Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, otherwise known as FISA, one of the government's most powerful surveillance authorities. The program allows intelligence agencies to collect communications from foreign targets overseas and has long been considered one of the intelligence community's most important tools. However, Section 702 has always been controversial because while it is designed to target foreign actors, Americans can also end up in those databases. And so critics have long argued the government is able to search information involving U.S. citizens without first obtaining a warrant, creating what they see as a serious Fourth Amendment problem. We're learning all about the Fourth Amendment this year with Trump. Normally, an extension of FISA would be... Normally, an extension of FISA...
We don't need privacy. It's good. Sorry.
Yeah. You know what? It's so funny. I've come so far on that journey personally. I used to think the desire for privacy. I came from Silicon Valley, and that was a big, argument internally in Silicon Valley. Whether we should give up some privacy to have better services, or whether there's this fear of what a centralized government would do with all of that data, or even what private companies would do with all that data.
Right.
And I was on the wrong side of that, as I tend to be. Most issues for a while until I smartened up. I just wasn't that worried. For most of my history and most of my life, the federal government, for most of American history, the federal government kind of played the role of the good guy in issues of morality. You think about the interventions in the South during the civil rights movement, think about the Civil War in and of itself. And so I naively was under concerned about this issue when it comes to data privacy. Even though it was such a big issue during, the Bush administration in my youth. But anyways, this time there's good news on this, Ellie. So normally an extension of FISA would be routine, but not so this time, because Democrats have drawn a line in the sand over one man, Bill Pulte, Trump's pick temporarily oversee the nation's intelligence agency. Now, if you're wondering why a housing regulator suddenly became the central figure in a fight over intelligence surveillance, let's recap. Over the last several months, Pulte has used his position at the Federal Housing Finance Agency to launch investigations and criminal referrals against a growing list of Trump's political enemies. This includes Letitia James, Adam Schiff, Lisa Cook, and Eric Swalwell. You remember that, Ellie?
I do remember that. Yes, I remember. yes. There, and this is the downside, right? And what you were saying about, like, it used to be better during the Civil War, civil rights. We probably got a little bit of a whitewashed version of that, if we're honest. Looking at history, I'm sure it was not all on the up and up. But when you look at this stuff now, I was like you, I grew up with a conspiracy theorist. So I grew up being told that your microwave is listening to you and, all these things. And so in the back of my head today, still go, you know, so what if they're listening to my phone calls? What are they going to hear? My grocery list,
Right,
whatever.
right.
But in this case, this is really damning because you have a president who's out for blood for any political enemy ever. And so if he has the ability to access someone's personal public information and, with the rights to do it or not, he's going to do it and he's going to use it to his own advantage.
I wonder if Miles Taylor feels left out. So look, he used his position. Pulte used his position to attack, Trump's enemies, aka just people standing up for normal democratic procedures. And but I want to summarize, this line. So Democrats looked at the prospect of handing surveillance powers to someone who has already proven to abuse his powers to pursue the Trump vengeance campaign, and said, absolutely not. But Democrats weren't the only problem, because 19 Republicans voted no as well. And their objection was a little different. For years, many of these same Republicans have argued that Section 702 gives the government too much power to search information involving American citizens without first obtaining a warrant. Small government Republicans. I didn't know they still existed. We've got a few of them, Ellie.
Yes, I know. They're out there. They're the ones that are probably the still Republicans that we wanted the whole time. So this is good.
19 out of 200, not a huge amount, but they're out there. And it's nice they stood up in this case, and they weren't about to abandon that position simply because Donald Trump was now the one asking for this authority. And so Representative Thomas Massie put it this way.
Rise in opposition to this clean reauthorization of a unconstitutional program that's being used to spy on Americans without warrants. This would be the third temporary clean extension of this unconstitutional program. And I find myself on the unfortunate opposition to the chairman of the committee of jurisdiction, the distinguished gentleman from Ohio. I'm going to read some of his quotes from last year. This is an article in the Washington Post that he so eloquently wrote. 1 year from now, Republicans and Democrats in Congress will have a chance to reaffirm our commitment to the Constitution and better protect the Americans from warrantless government surveillance. This will be one of the most important debates we will have this Congress, and it's vital that we begin working now to protect Americans' constitutional rights. He goes on to tweet later, or earlier than that, the same people who spied on President Trump's campaign are now fighting against a warrant requirement in the new FISA bill. Makes you wonder. So I find myself disagreeing with the chairman in this debate, but agreeing vehemently with him last year and the year before when he pointed out this program is unconstitutional and there's only one way to fix it: require warrants, judicial warrants.
Well, Massey's argument must have gotten through to his coworkers, because in the end, the measure failed outright, 198 to 218. I don't know what you do in these moments, Ellie. I've got one of these things.
I need a button. No, this is really good. That's I guess we see this a lot with Twitter, and we see this a lot where multiple issues where people are very clearly changing their mind, not deleting their Twitter history. And you wonder why in the case of something like this. Is it because they're just siding with Donald Trump, who obviously wants this to pass? Or do they really change their mind? And likely it's the former.
Yeah, likely it's the former. But we've got more good news, because after this happened, Trump folded. Just hours after the vote collapsed, the White House announced that Trump would nominate former SEC chairman and current U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton to serve as Director of National Intelligence instead. In other words, Trump gave up on making Pulte his permanent intelligence chief. The problem didn't solve anything. The House had already failed the extension vote and headed home for recess, and Senate Democrats immediately made clear that replacing Pulte on paper changes nothing if Pulte is still scheduled to take over as acting DNI next week. As Senator Chuck Schumer put it today, he has got to go, period. All right. I don't usually applaud Chuck Schumer these days, but good shit, Chuck. Keep it up. So after all that, Trump managed to pull off something fairly impressive. He lost Democrats. He lost 19 Republicans. He sacrificed his own nominee, and he still didn't get the votes, which means Section 702 is on track to expire for the first extended period in its history. Ellie, thoughts, my friend?
I think that's great. I think it's see cracks in the facade. We have the ability to do this with anything that is trying to be passed by the Trump White House. We have the ability to step forward and be in line with clear thinking Republicans. We don't have to be so divided on every issue. There are things that make sense, and in this case it really made sense to fight back on this, and I think they got, this is what they got. This was really great.
Do you feel like, I have given up on believing this Congress has most members of this Congress have a moral center, and that's what's guiding their decision making. But I do believe that the calculus of standing with Trump and when to stand to Trump has changed from I must always salute to dear leader to I'm going to pick and choose my spots. And it's probably choosing between supportive and neutral. And in this case, sometimes against, but not very often. But there's now a calculus versus a salute to dear leader that's going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this moment in time with Donald Trump is very, very temporary. I mean, if you're looking at it politically, if you're looking at it biologically, it's very, very temporary. And people have to recognize we are on the Titanic. And do you want to get on a lifeboat, or do you want to go down with the ship? And I think most people, not everybody, but most people are thinking about their political futures. They're thinking about their future reputations, and they're starting to make quick decisions because, as the structures go up on the White House lawn, minds are changing and people are starting to think, will I get reelected if I continue to side with this man? And chances are no.
Deborah J says fissures in the dam. Maybe some Republicans are tired of kissing big cheeks. Well put.
Possible.
All right. Let's go on to a subject a thing or two about, and possibly one of the biggest drivers of those fissures that Deborah mentioned. You've done some of the most important reporting anywhere on the Epstein files, the cover-up allegations and the political fallout surrounding all of it. I don't think it's hyperbole. I think that's just a fact at this point. But now, as I know, you have seen yesterday, the New York Times released a scathing report on just how much this scandal has rocked the White House. I want you to summarize. What can you tell me about what was released yesterday?
Okay, so yesterday they released this. It's a rather long article. They have the place at the top where you can listen to it, and I think it was like a 45-minute long article. So this is a beefy article. Much of it was rehashing things that we actually already know, so that they were sort of some filler there, but there were some really important things that were brought up, and one of those things was, well, two things to pay attention to. A lot of the stuff was scathing, right? As you mentioned, this was something that didn't make the president look good. It showed that people were doing a lot of infighting. It showed that people were scared about the Epstein files and the release and what this was going to look like. This is all last summer. It's about a year ago. And you start to think of who looked good in this conversation, who looked good in this article. Where is the leak? Because the leak is coming from inside the Situation Room, right? Yeah. Who presents themselves as being the most innocent and the most patriotic and the most decent, level-headed human being? Well, that was JD Vance. And so likely, can't guarantee, but likely that's where we got this leak, was from JD Vance. Now, the thing that I paid attention to over everything else in this was they were talking about what to do with Ghislaine Maxwell. That was a serious issue. Who's going to talk to her? How is she going to exonerate Donald Trump? They wanted to have Tucker Carlson interview her, and which would then be not under oath, right? It would just be kind of like a television interview. That didn't end up happening. But a week later, a week after this discussion in the Situation Room, they had Todd Blanche go to her low security prison, which I believe was in Florida, and interview her, give her a proffer for 2 days, in which she says all sorts of things. The part that she says on Donald Trump is very short, is very clipped. It's, he's a nice guy, didn't do anything wrong. Okay, next question, over. And in this article, they state very clearly that they wanted the American public to have the transcript of that interview immediately, right? So that we could see, right in front of us, that Donald Trump is a good guy, doesn't do anything wrong, not involved with the files, have a nice day, move on. And now, as we've seen with these depositions, it takes a really long time to get a transcript of a deposition, to get information. We got hers like overnight. It was very, very quick. And then, wouldn't you know, she was transferred to Texas to a minimum security prison camp, not prison, prison camp. This was all developed in this meeting. This was the discussion that they were having. They were talking about pardons. They were talking about what she was going to give them, and they were going to give her. This was a striking conversation that I don't think is a surprise to anyone, but it's good to have documentation that it exists.
And to be clear, they're not talking about pardons because she's going to help them uncover what really happened, right?
No.
The discussion is about pardons for helping them build a public narrative. And,
Yes.
and it's all in kind of service of how to make the administration look good, letting a known trafficker off the hook in an effort to just make their PR better, right? Which is not where you would hope like a genuine justice search would be putting pressure on her.
And there are Republicans on that team that I really, really, really disagree with, but they recognize how bad that would be for the White House PR to let her go and to give her a pardon. How bad that would look for everyone, because she is a child sex abuser. Like, she has done it all. She participated in it all. She funded it all. Like, she is the capo of this situation. Like, she is running the show from here on out, because she either gets a pardon and clears Donald Trump, and off she goes in the wild blue yonder. But I don't think that would help him, because nobody wants her released. Or we hit the midterms, we have a situation where things flip, and she has the opportunity to go state's witness, and then she could maybe be released on witness protection. So she really has the upper hand for what she's about to say here. And I think in the next probably year, we will see some big movement on her part. None of them good, but yeah.
Ellie, something that really stood out to me that was so bizarre is they had these repeated meetings in the White House Situation Room, where they planned how to kill bin Laden, is where this all took place. And so this is to figure out how to deal with the Epstein files and the growing backlash they were seeing from their own supporters. What does that tell you, that they're having these meetings in the Situation Room?
That they think it's a war, like that they put it on the same level as a war or an assassination, or like it is their Kennedy assassination. Like, it's so big and it's so detrimental. This could end a presidency. And again, they were in the room. There were no phones. There was supposed to be no recordings. It was the top level of fear for the Trump administration about their reputation and future in the White House. And it should be.
It's incredible to me that all of this is still worth not releasing the Epstein files, the complete freaking circus that this has become. Right. Their assessment is still the better thing is not to release the Epstein files, which tells me, and I think should tell all of us, I don't know who's kind of who's going to be surprised by any information that's in the Epstein files at this point.
Right.
This all proves it is the worst of what we're assuming it is in there.
It is, and it's simple math. Like, they can't say, we gave you everything, there's nothing left, because all the emails stop at 2008. There's no emails before 2008. They're gone, right? Who's his best friend during that period of time? I don't know. Could be Donald Trump. Like, there are just blocks of time that are just gone from the files, where somebody will have a conversation and it says you cut off and it doesn't exist. So you know that stuff is in there. You know the information, whether or not Trump is emailing himself. You know there's scheduling. You know there are flights. You know that there are discussion of social events and different things that are going on pre that first trial. We were all emailing in the early 2000s. It was the standard mode of communication, but it doesn't exist in the files. It's just not there.
Yeah, at a certain point, this is all just more damning than whatever's going to come out. It's like the Epstein jail footage, where it's like been edited. It's proven it's been edited. The edit, we don't even need to see what happened. It's edited by the government. All right. Yes. All right. Well, let's move on, because we got an important guest here, and I really want his take on this next subject. We're going to close tonight with a story that I suspect most Americans aren't paying attention to yet, but they probably will be soon. On Monday night, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin was sitting courtside at Madison Square Garden with Donald Trump. 48 hours later, he was on stage at Politico's Energy Summit, announcing that the Trump administration has no plans to create national environmental standards for data centers. Now, that might not sound like a big deal. It sounds like a big deal Some people might not sound like a big deal to others until you remember that data centers are becoming one of the fastest growing sources of water consumption and energy demands in America. Communities around the country are already raising alarms about water usage, pollution concerns, electrical grid strain, and even property damage tied to construction. And Zeldin's response, that's a local problem.
It is important as more builds are getting done that they are following those best practices, not the worst practices.
And how do you make sure that those worst practices are eliminated?
Well, I talk about it all the time. In my travels, here we are talking about it. I often find myself every day having that opportunity to be able to promote it. We don't sit though in DC and say, we know best from our agency office in Washington, DC. A lot of this is a belief that state and local communities know their land, air, and water better than agencies do in DC.
Yeah, so actually that's a great point because, I've traveled the country talking to folks. I know you do the same. And I'm sure you've heard this, that there's a ton of skepticism from certain communities about these data centers. Only about 37% of Americans say they would support plans to build a data center in their community, according to a poll that we did here at Politico. What assurances are you offering these communities? What can you offer today that are really skeptical that the energy production needed for these data centers won't harm them or their health?
Well, it really depends on how the deal is structured.
So what's the EPA's role in making sure that they are doing, again, the best practice version of this and not the worst practice?
Well, we provide technical assistance with local communities, with states, with state regulatory bodies. We meet with the data center community, will meet with hyperscalers, we'll share our thoughts. Ultimately, at the end of the day, EPA is not the party that is negotiating or mediating or refereeing that deal that gets struck between the parties. But we are happy to engage as much as we possibly can to share that technical expertise and the best practices from what we're seeing elsewhere around the country. We'll continue to do that.
So is there a risk that this sort of hands-off, sort of voluntary approach might result in more data centers that are using energy practices or other practices that are harmful to the environment or communities? 10
times out of 10, I'm not going to sit inside of an agency building in Washington, D.C., and that we say that we know that local community in Georgia or Florida, or Arizona or elsewhere better than everyone there locally.
Tell that to DHS, motherfucker.
This is interesting. This is interesting because before I was working on the Epstein files, I was working on the big beautiful bill, that was released last year. I only call it that because that's what they call it. And part of that was how much money they were pulling from the EPA and what regulations they were just going to disappear. So much of that had to do with rural communities and tribal land, absolutely decimating the EPA. And so I find this really interesting because I come from a rural community. I don't live there now, but when I moved here, it's the perfect storm for these data centers. And when you look at it, I don't remember if it was you who was saying this, Xander, but the amount of heat that these buildings give off, these data centers give off, is multiple atom bombs a day, right, over a 24-hour period. And so that's
not the denomination you want things measured in, by the way.
Right. It's like 23 atom bombs a day over a 24-hour period. And the water that's being pulled into this is for cooling. So it doesn't absorb back into the soil and go back into the water systems. It's completely evaporated into the atmosphere and is gone. And so it's so environmentally unsustainable. And yet we're going to plop these all over the US, and that's the new AI it's the new oil, right? We were talking about it's the new oil, and that they need rare earth minerals in order to run these machines. It's like a cartoon bad guy. We've got a new factory. It's going to take all your water. It's like atom bombs, and we're going to take all your rare earth minerals, and we're going to drill your land in order to run these machines. It's just the worst case scenario.
Now, Ellie, one might hear your argument and ask the simple question, where is Congress on this? Well, one representative has really had her finger on the pulse in laying out just why the EPA needs to intervene, and that's Rep. AOC. She actually went down to Georgia and spoke with individuals affected by these new data centers. And her discovery does little to support Zeldman's argument. In some cases, they say local officials are actively finding ways around community opposition to move these projects forward.
In a neighborhood that's in unincorporated Clayton County, but just over the fence line is the city limits of Forest Park. And that is where the facility is being built.
Wow. Okay. All right. So the county has a moratorium,
Yes.
but the city does not?
Correct.
Wow. And so the city, even though the city's inside the county,
Correct.
it's not covered. Hoo-wee. All right. Talk about a loophole.
Yes.
I don't blame Amazon. I don't blame those businesses. I blame our government. That's who's supposed to be taking care of me. My commissioner should have been looking after our community. Our governor should be looking after our state. Like, it goes up. A business is a business, and it's about making business, and they don't care what they're doing to people.
Right.
They don't, and that's a shame, but they're greedy and they don't
the
care.
way it is. Yeah.
We appreciate you taking the time to come here about it, because until someone at a national level gets really serious about it, nothing's going to happen.
Ellie, quick thoughts. I'm going to bring on our guest here.
I mean, like I said, it just feels like a monster. It's something that's going to eat away at our environmental regulations and the things that these communities that are probably lower as far as income, lower as far as like property value, they're going to pull from those people. They're not pulling from cities. They're not pulling from areas where people are wealthier. They're low income communities, and they're taking their resources and, deteriorating their communities. And for what? So we have these national data centers that steal our data, create AI, and it's a monster.
Yeah, you could almost like insert the industry along like a different industry, depending where in the American history timeline you are to that exact argument. And it's just happened over and over and over again. And joining us to talk about that now is a man running to help join the fight in Washington against these data centers, as those local people were talking about. They needed fighters in Washington. He is the Sunrise Movement co-founder and Michigan Congressman William Lawrence. William, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
William, we were just covering the AI data centers. I know this is the climate in general has always been an animating, force in your life as the founder of Sunrise Movement. And now there's almost like a perfect convergence of this issue and your attempt to be in Congress here and do something about it. Talk to me about the AI data center fight.
It wasn't what I expected to be running on when I got into this race last August, but then we've had 4 proposed data centers in Michigan's 7th district, including 3 hyperscale data centers. So people just started coming to me and talking about it, people who had not been activists before in their life, people who were public health workers, educators, and were part of this grassroots movement of people saying, we don't trust what Sam Altman and Elon Musk are coming into our towns to do, and they're trying to fight back. So then you start digging, and the way that there is the coordination with the local officials. I mean, you've got township officials who are signing non-disclosure agreements and then coming to the public and saying, trust us, this is a great deal, this is a great deal. And people say, you've given us no reason to trust. And people are just incredibly, incredibly furious about it.
Ellie, I'll throw you the next question.
Yeah. So you're from Michigan, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So I'm from Montana, and at this point we only have, I think, 1 data center down in like the Yellowstone area. What specific issues are you seeing running into the communities in your state? Like, what are the biggest complaints from constituents?
People are concerned about the land use, light pollution, water pollution, energy bills going up, potential water usage, but really they're concerned about who decides, because people are feeling that this is, billionaires from out of state coming in and permanently changing the character of the community. And people are saying, we want to determine the future of our town. We don't want Sam Altman doing that. And then, so that's the biggest issue, is who gets to decide, because people feel like the companies are coming in, the non-disclosure agreements are signed, and then they're the last ones to find out. And then there's a huge amount of condescension and lecturing that happens by the PR agents and the public officials to try to convince everybody that they should just roll over and let this happen.
Yeah.
William, this feels very reminiscent to the coverage we've had on the ICE prison camps. It feels like a very similar playbook of kind of these private deals taking place in back rooms outside of the view of concerned citizens. Do you feel like there similarities and lessons to be learned in these parallel fights that are happening?
Absolutely. And I've seen it with other mega projects that have been proposed around Michigan as well. I mean, again, I think in a time where wealth inequality is at an all-time high, and too many politicians see their job as kind of brokering deals on behalf of very wealthy corporations and their billionaire CEOs, people are rejecting that model of economic development. And that's the common thread I see across the state of Michigan on all host of issues when it comes to these major, major investment projects. And the ice warehouses are certainly among them.
One thing that sticks out to me, it's like previously, Ellie and I were just talking about how in previous generations, like we've seen this fight, that industry would come to down, they kind of, make handshake deals with powerful people, and then they'd be there whether or not the locals wanted it or not. At least in previous generations, there were lots of jobs and careers that came with these industries. That doesn't seem to be the case with these data centers. I can't quite tell. There's some jobs in building them out, right? The construction of them. But in the long-term maintenance, this isn't like Ford coming to town in 1910 in Detroit, right? What do communities have to gain from these data centers being there?
Very little, very little. Certainly, there are some people who are interested in seeing the jobs, especially the people who are in the building trades. But the lasting jobs are very, very few. And the biggest selling point that is being offered is that this is going to increase tax revenue, which is going to help your community. But then it gets ugly really fast because people say, okay, well, we're not sure. We still don't trust that the trade-offs are necessarily worth it. And then very quickly, the corporations, they say, well, don't you know you don't have any better options? You're not going to get any other investment here in the town. And so basically, you dumb idiots, you've got to take this deal because we're rich and you're poor, and this is your best chance of having investment for your future. And then that really pisses people off.
I'm curious. I'm curious if people in your area have good access to information, or if they're being kind of propagandized to one side of, this will benefit your community. Don't worry. Look away. This is a great opportunity. AI is the future, that type of thing. Or do you feel like they're pretty well informed and fighting back?
People are definitely informed about the risks. There's no doubt about it. And they are seeing, videos about the light pollution and the noise pollution and the energy bills that are going up in other parts of the country. And they're saying, we don't want this here in our town. So what I'm seeing is strong opposition, probably 70 to 80% opposed. And that includes people who are Democrats, Republicans, independents, and everywhere else along the political spectrum. It's something that really is uniting people from the bottom up, while our elected officials are united from the top down in trying to roll out these data centers. We've seen that from Donald Trump. We've seen that from our governor, Gretchen Whitmer, and far too many other Democrats and Republicans across the state of Michigan in elected office. But the people are not buying it.
William, one of the frustrating things about this moment is we are dealing with the scaling of these very energy intensive data centers at the same time that we are rejecting building climate infrastructure and renewable energy infrastructure. And we turned back the clock in a lot of ways on that during this Trump administration. I'm sympathetic to some of the arguments around remaining competitive around AI. And I just wonder, what does, let's assume you get into office, you're there, and you all are figuring out what is our AI policy writ large. I imagine it does have to be tethered to the ability to produce renewable energy and to do this as cleanly as possible. What do you feel like once you get in there and you're in those rooms, what are you going to be advocating for as like America's AI policy writ large?
Yeah, the energy policy is a big part of it. We simply can't allow this to torch the planet if we're going to be building new natural gas all over the country, which is going to cook the planet even farther than we've already done. But really, we need an AI and data center social compact so that people believe that the benefits of this technology will genuinely be shared by everybody. People are willing to accept shared sacrifice when they believe that there is going to be shared benefit for the common good. And what we have here is that, again, the proponents are saying, this is the cost of progress. Accept this sacrifice for the sake of progress. And then people say, but we are not going to benefit. You're promising that you're going to destroy my neighborhood so that you can take away my jobs. It just doesn't make any sense. Where is the value proposition? And so we need to have a conversation. We need to slow down. which is why I support a moratorium so that we can have a conversation across society about how we can all benefit and the planet can be sustained in the midst of this new technological advancement of AI powered by data centers.
Ellie, I know he's short on time, but I'll let you ask one more question before we let
Yeah,
Will go.
well, I was just gonna say, yeah, that is, I don't know if it's more of a question or a statement. I'm somebody who has lost my job to AI before, and so I can feel what these people are feeling. Like the idea that you're not only going to go in, you're going to put in a data center that's not going to give you any jobs, but it's actually going to take away your jobs, but then it's going to raise your bills when you don't have those jobs. Like there is zero benefit for anybody. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah,
it's a hell of a pitch.
Well, Will, before you go, you run for Congress. It would be rude to not let you plug the campaign. Where are you running? Where can people find you?
Yes, I'm running in Michigan's 7th District, which is mid-Michigan. I live in Lansing. I was raised in East Lansing. This is one of the most critical swing districts in the country that will determine control of the U.S. House in November. I'm wearing purple because it's a purple district. We've got a Republican incumbent. His name is Tom Barrett. You haven't heard of him because he hasn't distinguished himself in office. He's in his first term. Folks around here call him one-term Tom because we're going to beat him this November. But I'm up in the primary on August 4th against two Democrats who have never lived in this district before. They're moving in, trying to buy the district, and they're in large part funded by Silicon Valley and Wall Street. And we know we're going to get more of the same kind of conciliatory nothingness that we've seen, unfortunately, from too many Democrats on this issue and other issues. So I love where we're at. We've got an amazing volunteer-driven campaign. We're going to go win on August 4th. And if folks could come and support us, come knock some doors with us, or make a donation at wewill2026.com.
Well, the comments are behind you. Look, I want to thank you for running, man, because I often say, like, many of the politicians you run into, you can see the animating force in them running is their own ambition. And sometime in between 7th and 8th grade, they told themselves they wanted to be president. That's the whole reason they're running. We've already seen you fund the Sunrise Movement. You've already taken another path entirely to try to address climate change. We know what animates you. You've been in this fight in different ways. And I just want to thank you for remaining in the fight and running for office, which feels like, you know, for folks like me and you in the nonprofit space, feels like a leap sometimes, a scary leap. And I appreciate you jumping in the game and trying to get in there in DC.
Thank you so much. I'll just say I'm actually loving it. I'm not getting tired of meeting people and getting to know the community that raised me even better.
Nice.
So I'm confident that we're going to get this done on August 4th. Thank you to all your viewers and listeners, and thank you for having me.
Cool, brother.
Nice to
Good
meet
luck
you.
out there.
Good luck.
Ellie,
Positivity.
I know, it's so nice. It's so nice. I mean, Mercedes and I were talking about it yesterday. It's one of the things I love about seeing AOC. It's like, it's so clear what animates her, you know, and if you can't spot it, it's ambition. It's just personal ambition. And so we need more of those folks running for office, hopefully winning. But even, you know, the presence of someone like that in a race pushes others to consider big ideas, to take on, you know, stronger stances against corporations, et cetera. It was really nice. And young people, you know, he didn't look like he was 80. I don't know how old he is, but he didn't look 80.
Oh God, yes. We need young people, but also just, I love the idea of AOC going into communities that probably would not have voted for her if given the chance, without any sort of a filter that they're viewing her through. They're just telling her the thing that they need, and she's listening. And they're realizing that they can talk to somebody like an AOC, that it doesn't need to be somebody along their party lines in order to listen to them. And I think that's really, really important because, you know, in the past few years, we're often told what to think, told who to believe, told, you know, where our politics should lie. And very often we can disagree politically, but on major issues that affect our daily lives, most people agree on those issues. And I think it's important to pay attention to those.
We're also living, you know, going back to the Epstein files, we're also living in a very different world in terms of like who a Republican is. Like not too long ago, it was a, you know, Fox News listener that, you know, had been sold a neoliberalism, small government, et cetera. Trump has changed that a lot, right? Like Trump isn't necessarily a small government guy. He believes in government interventions oftentimes. You know, it's a populist movement. There's a lot of working class people in that movement who have real problems. And so some of the calculus I think Democrats have made in the past of like, well, I'm not really going to win that many votes if I go into the communities.
probably needs to change a bit and be updated because those people are now conditioned to a lot of kind of working class narratives. Now they've been sold a bag of goods by a charlatan, right, around the elections being stolen and immigrants being your core issue. But the core pain was still correct, and he identified them as, you know, meaningful voters in society, where their jobs weren't getting better, right? Where there is reasons to worry about democracy. It might not be voter fraud, but there's lots of reasons to worry about our democracy. You can go win those people if they've identified those as their core issues.
Right. If they realize, you know, if your president is saying small government, but then he's arresting doctors for performing procedures in other states that have their own laws, and that those doctors are getting longer jail sentences than the people who are raping children and going to jail, who are causing these kids to get pregnant. Like, this is a huge mess, and people don't see that at its core. They just go, oh, he's telling me small government. Oh, he's handing me an onion and calling it an apple. Okay, I'm going to believe this guy. But like, when you have people that go into your communities and you have these town halls are vital. You have people actually talking to the people and listening to their individual questions, not in a room of 5,000 people, but in a room of like 50. You get things done, and you start to hear what people really, really want and what matters to them.
I've heard that a bunch. I had dinner with Raphael Warnock like 4 years ago, and he was saying, and Charles Booker, who was running Kentucky, said the same thing, how surprised they were at the reception in rural white communities just because they were there. You know, it's like, it's almost like, I say this all the time, I'm raising a toddler right now. It's like, just validate. That's like a first step, just validate. And you're 90% of the way home. You know, if you look at someone who sees them, gets down their level and validates, you're 90% of the way home. And we on the left, I'm talking very broadly, gave up on a lot of communities, on having that type of relationship with a lot of communities.
Yes, we definitely have, and we're still very divided.
We are coming into our favorite segment. Ellie, you ready for it? Who's joining the Defiance?
Okay, let's do it.
For today, we come back to a Defiance hotspot, New York City, my home for nearly a decade recently, a place where every man, woman, and rat gave Trump a piece of their mind and told him to, well, fuck off this week at the Knicks game. However, joining the Defiance isn't always just about throwing a middle finger in Trump's face, although it is always appreciated. It's also about bringing people together and finding a community to take back this country from his puffy little hands. And as he tries to demonize diversity, we found one hardcore leader celebration, hoops core leader, whose celebration has gone viral. Hope Core. There we go, Mercedes. Has gone viral. So today we go back to New York to meet MD Hussein, who summarized the beauty of the city and brought folks together through a Knicks chant. Let's take a look.
Mayor Muslim, my bagel's Jewish.
Oh no, where did it go?
My mayor Muslim, my bagel's Jewish, my Christian Dior,
This fans chant has become a New York Knicks rallying cry for fans, politicians, and celebrities.
Yeah.
It was 23-year-old MD Hussein who said this now viral chant after the Knicks won Game 1 of the NBA Finals.
You know, Mr. Mamdani, Zoran, he's our mayor right now, and he's doing a great job. Bagels are one of the most iconic foods of New York City. My Christian is Dior. My Christian Dior was a great line from the former king of New York, Pop Smoke. May he rest in peace. 4 wins is all we need, and that's what we're going to get.
And his words have had an impact with the fan base.
Because it exemplifies everything New York is and everything that everybody else is scared of. When they question if it really works, they get to watch a city that is built on a foundation of diversity, of immigration, of mixed races, mixed cultures, mixed sexualities, mixed religions, celebrate together.
You can make
So
people
true,
afraid.
man.
It's beautiful.
You live right outside New York, Ellie. You get to go and
I
see all
do.
the time.
I go there
Yeah.
all the time. And I have to tell you, as a person from a rural community, I walk down the streets of New York by myself. I walk at night. I have my headphones. I have never felt afraid. People are friendly. Stores are open. The food is good. Everything. There's so much diversity, and people are so happy. It's like an extrovert's paradise. Like, everybody wants to talk to everybody. Like, I was telling my husband, you could be at the subway. You could have a book in your lap. You could have your headphones in, and someone will lean over and say, like, how you doing? You know, like, it's
Totally.
it's a great place. And I think I think seeing what we saw last night and the celebrations in the street after the Knicks won defies everything that Donald Trump would like you to believe about a place like New York City. It is one of the greatest places in the world.
Yeah, I think when people visit New York, I mean, I had this experience when I moved to New York first, is it can be like the volume of people can be intimidating at first, but you realize almost that's your safety blanket. New Yorkers like stick up for each other, fight for each other, help each other. When we had our baby, my wife never had to lift the stroller by herself going in and out of the subway. There's always someone there to give her a seat, etc. And I think because it's like its own little organic like life, sometimes if you're a tourist, you're in the way, and New Yorkers will let you know when you're in the way. You won't know to stand on the side of the sidewalk or how to get through the toll. And sometimes people have that like abrasive New York experience, but they're just trying to everyone's basically like your auntie that tells you what to do, but it's out of love. You've got a lot of that.
I mean, we've taken our kids there a million times, and it's just like even the police officers in New York, like they're friendly. They're talking to homeless people. Like I remember when we first got there was a guy just like smoking a joint, talking to the police officer, and he's like, "Hey man," like, and he's like, "Here, you want a bagel?" Like, it is such a friendly, happy place because in a place that's got that many people, they're not worried about teeny tiny crimes. They're not worried about teeny tiny issues. Like they deal with the big stuff, and everything else is just kind of like water under the bridge. They're so friendly, and you kind of have to learn the flow of things. There are signs if you get towards, most people don't go to Times Square that much, but like if you get there's signs on the sidewalk that said if you're slow, like step aside and let people pass. Like don't stop and tie your shoes.
I couldn't even walk fast enough when I first moved there. I was like, I had to like build a New York stride.
The pace. Yes, but then you start to, then it becomes less stressful, and it's almost like white noise. Like you go there, I go there by myself very often. It's calming to me because it's like this massive white noise, and you're just like, oh, I can hear my monologue. I can, I love it. I think it's one of the happiest and best places in the world. You got to kind of get to know it if you live there. You always know you're a tourist if you're looking up, not looking down at your phone, and you just get to know the place. But it's wonderful, and in the summertime is like the best time in New York.
It really is. And just to go back to this point about like what makes New York, New York, I was staying in Brooklyn last week, a week and a half ago. The idea that like New York would be some home to white supremacy with the diversity that you're surrounded by is unthinkable. And I'm telling you, if ICE comes there and thinks they're going to pull some of the shit that they pulled in some of these other cities with the density that New York has, there's not an empty block in New York. You're not going to do something in secret in New York.
No.
I don't think New Yorkers are going to put up with it one bit. And I think, I saw them dog walk ICE out of there one time. I think it'll keep happening to them. New Yorkers will protect their neighbors. There's actually some more Defiance breaking news, though. There appears to be a huge 8647 etched into the grass on the National Mall. It seems like the administration has caught on because witnesses say the area was blocked off at 1 p.m.
I'm curious how they did that because they literally had to kill the grass with something. So I'm curious what their method was. But like if you look really close, there is a full 8647. It's just they got the 8 in there and then nothing else. But yeah, I want to know their method.
The visual war that DC has become between like the UFC arena, 8647, Trump's name coming off the Kennedy Center. It's kind of incredible and kind of authoritarian 101. Like this is what you expect in places where there's authoritarian. They try to put their face everywhere, their name everywhere, and if you have an active pro-democracy movement, they fight back in their ways.
Yeah, I took my kids to DC right before the election. In 2024, and so that they could go to the Smithsonian, they could see the Women's March, they could kind of experience that. And then having been back there since, it is wild seeing these 20-foot posters hanging from the, am I still here?
Yep. I see you.
Oh, sorry. My screen went black. But there's these 20-foot posters hanging from all the buildings with Trump's that real domineering face that he makes, and and then there's all these signs that say like the truth will set you free and things like that. It's just so much propaganda, and it's very odd. And then the things have been removed from the Smithsonian, and they've taken out all the civil rights stuff and the stuff about his slavery and history. It's a different place right now for sure.
Well, one thing we have the advantage of, I see your screen is frozen, Ellie, but I hear you.
I don't know why. I apologize, but as long as you can hear me, I'm still here.
Yeah, you can try the camera off, camera on button. That's what worked for me at the beginning of this program. It's appropriate we end this way since we started this way with my mic, anyways. But I was gonna say, look, like the advantage we have is the 1900s already happened, and we already saw all this stuff play out, and we know what to look for, and we know what the signs are. Unlike the Italians with Mussolini and the Spanish with Franco and the Germans with Hitler. Fascism isn't a new playbook this time around. We know what it looks like, and we know to fight for it, and we won't let them erase our history. One of the most moving experiences I had in my life when I was helping the Kings run their foundation is Lonnie Bunch from the Smithsonian called us and said, "Can you come over to the Smithsonian?" This was like 7 a.m. before it opened. He's like, "We want to show you guys something." So it was just me, Martin Luther King III, and his wife Andrea King. And we went over to the Smithsonian, and they had found the original "I Have a Dream" speech, the handwritten copy that Martin Luther King read. And Lonnie showed it to us, showed it to the family. It was really moving. And then walked us around the African American History Museum in a private tour. And it was just awesome to feel that again, feel a moment where the trajectory of the country was going this direction. And it felt almost inevitable. It was going that direction. It felt like a little bit of a time machine. And we can do it again. And you kind of have to go through these hard times to find the political will to engage as often as you need to when you're going to take big steps forward, big progressive steps forward. Okay. All right. We've got Ellie in audio only. She's still frozen. But Ellie, you still with me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, the voice of God. You become the voice of God now.
I'm the voice of God.
You're still with me.
Okay, I'm glad you can still hear me. I don't know what's going on. Maybe my computer's like, I'm done with you now. I don't know.
All right. Well, we've got just viewership. You've made it to almost the finish line. We're on time again. As soon as we dump Miles from the program, we make it on time all the time now. Mercedes, give me a thumbs up. We love you, Miles Taylor. We're just kidding. But we have time for some viewership questions. Songbird's mom, 1001 asks, has his name come down yet? His being Trump, come down from, I imagine, the Kennedy Center. There is a guy that I check on Instagram that rides his bike 10 miles to the front of the Kennedy Center just to take a selfie to see if it's come down yet. I don't know, Mercedes, did you check? I didn't check on him this morning. I know it has yesterday.
I don't think it's down. Somebody was posting it this
yet.
morning, and yeah, Aaron Parnas was saying he was just there and it wasn't down yet, but it's in the process.
Yeah, so not down yet. I mean, these guys are like the experts at running out the clock when they're forced to do something by the courts. So I imagine they're going to, as per usual, drag their feet on the things they don't want to do. Henning says, I missed the opening. Is Miles okay? Micro or macro? Miles is not okay. But in the micro sense, he's doing great. He's on a hike with his family, and he'll be back Monday, I believe. So I've just taken over the ship for a few days here. And Mercedes, we have any other questions, or is that it for the show, my friend? Let's see. Tomorrow is Friday. Very fun. MAGA losses of the week. We've got the Soulmate Award. We're having a good time. I'm going to be joined by my good friend Joe Walsh, who always likes messing around and talking shit. I want to thank the incredible Ellie Leonard for being a part of this, and like more broadly, just doing everything you're doing. If you ever have anything you need to share, your audience is our audience is your audience, one of those two things. We're here to support you in all of your efforts to get to the truth beneath the Epstein files and find justice for the survivors.
Well, thank you very much. So something I've been working on lately, and it's a little bit of a labor of love, but Wednesdays and Friday nights, I am continuing to read the Epstein files live, as was done in the filibuster at the Epstein Trump reading room. And in so doing, I usually include a QR code for either the bookmobile reading room or the the reading room that's now in DC, or sometimes for Virginia Giuffre's Foundation, SOAR. So I usually include different things like that. But what I'm doing is reading pieces of the Epstein files that are a little bit more understandable, a lot of depositions, things that are, that make sense to us now in the aftermath. And so I'm just going to keep continuing to do that.
Amazing. And what time is that tomorrow?
So that'll be 9:00 tomorrow night, Eastern time.
All right, cool. So you guys, if you don't have anything planned, come to our show, then come to Ellie's show and have a great Friday night. All right. Thank you so much, Ellie Leonard. And for the rest of you, I'll see you all tomorrow. In the meantime, as Miles Taylor loves to say, stay loud, stay brave, and stay together. We'll see you soon.